The night was silent, but the smell of blood still hung in the air. Fires had eaten half the huts, and broken spears lay across the dusty ground. Mothers were searching for their children in the dark, calling names that would never be answered again. Some bodies lay in the open, their eyes staring at the sky. This was the night when Umuocha and Ezi finally destroyed each other. Long before the war, the two villages had lived close to each other. Their lands were separated by a small river, shallow enough for anyone to walk across. The people of Umuocha farmed cassava and yams. The people of Ezi were hunters and fishermen. Both villages needed each other, but they never trusted each other. Old men in Umuocha used to say, "The people of Ezi are tricksters. They poisoned our stream once." Old women in Ezi used to warn their children, "The people of Umuocha killed our hunter long ago." They smile at us, but their hearts are black. Nobody alive had seen those old wrongs, but the stories were told again and again. Children grew up hearing them until hate became part of everyday life. The war began with something small. One morning, a goat from Umuocha strayed into the farmland of Ezi. It ate young yam seedlings. When the farmer who owned the land came, he was furious. He called other young men, and they caught the goat. Instead of tying it and returning it, they killed it and roasted it there in the farm. The goat's owner came later, searching. He saw the bones and heard their mocking laughter. "Go and tell your people that Umuocha goats will not eat our yams again," one of them said. The man returned home shaking with anger. That evening, Umuocha elders gathered. They said this insult was too much. In their eyes, it was not about the goat anymore. It was about respect. A week later, when the sun was high, a group of Umuocha youth marched into Ezi farmland. They carried clubs, machetes, and burning torches. They caught two farmers, beat them until their bones cracked, and set fire to their yam barn. The screams echoed across the fields. Ezi men rushed to help, but by the time they came, the attackers had gone. Smoke covered the sky. That night, Ezi called for revenge. "They have drawn first blood," the leader of the youth said. "If we keep quiet, they will think we are cowards." On the second night after the burning, Ezi warriors crossed the river. They moved like shadows, carrying bows, arrows, and cutlasses. They entered Umuocha while the people were asleep. They set huts on fire. When men ran out, they cut them down. Children screamed. Women tried to hide in the bushes but were dragged out. By the time the cock crowed, 10 men and 6 women lay dead. Flames swallowed the night. Umuocha swore never to forgive. From that day, both villages were at war. The roads became unsafe. Traders avoided the area. The market that once joined both villages was abandoned. Hunters could no longer go deep into the forest because they feared ambush. Week after week, they attacked each other. Some days it was a raid on the farms. Some nights it was a surprise attack on sleeping families. Young men sharpened their spears and forgot about planting. Children grew up hiding in the forest more than they stayed in their huts. The war spread like fire. Every funeral gave birth to another fight. Every new grave pushed the people deeper into hate. When the rains came, hunger joined the war. Farms were empty because no one planted. Cassava rotted in the ground. Goats and chickens were stolen by raiders. The sick and weak began to die first. Old people who could not run were left behind whenever a raid came. Some mothers carried babies on their backs and fled through the bush, but many were caught. Even the river that once gave them water became a place of death. Anyone seen fetching water from the other side was attacked. By the third moon of fighting, both Umuocha and Ezi were shadows of themselves. The worst battle happened at the river, the thin line that divided the villages. One hot afternoon, Umuocha warriors gathered, carrying spears and shields. They crossed into Ezi land shouting war cries. Ezi warriors came out in numbers. The fight began with arrows flying, then machetes clashing, then men wrestling in the mud. The river ran red. The sound of metal, screams, and drums filled the air. By evening, both sides had lost too many. The ground was covered with bodies. The smell of blood choked even the vultures circling above. That night, no one in either village slept. Mothers cried over sons. Children searched for fathers who would never return. After months of endless war, the warriors themselves grew tired. Their arms were heavy, their spirits broken. One morning, they met again at the river, but instead of charging, they stood staring at each other. The hatred was still there, but the strength to fight was gone. On both sides, they had nothing left, no food, no peace, no joy. Only graves. There was no winner. Both Umuocha and Ezi had destroyed themselves. The survivors carried their wounds and tried to rebuild. But the scars remained. Children who lost parents grew up with anger in their eyes. The story of the goat, the fire, the raids, and the river was told again and again. And so, though the war ended, the hatred never truly died. That is why, even today, when people of the land tell the story of Umuocha and Ezi, they begin with the smell of blood in the night, so that no one forgets what anger can do when it is allowed to grow.